Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me here, Michael Franti, and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Human podcast. And I've been looking forward to this gentleman being on the show because he has been like somebody who's just been through the ringer, and I respect his journey so much, and I want to share it with you because I am passionate about wrongful conviction. I'm passionate about the prison industrial complex and doing things that we can to reform it. And I'm also just passionate about people who are practicing loving kindness and mindfulness in the world, despite all of the chaos that they've been through and all the chaos that we see each day. So in 1991, Tobias Tubbs was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death, actually, life without the possibility of parole, as a youth offender. He then spent 3 decades, 1, 2, 3 decades within some of the most dangerous and inhumane prisons that California has to offer, where he not only served these years, but thrived through his adoption of loving kindness and mindfulness practice. And due to Tobias's incredible healing work with thousands of prisoners and staff during a 28-year period, as well as his profound advocacy to terminate sentences like his own, he was commuted his sentence and released to his community, where he continues to engage in his incredible healing work and advocacy for incarcerated people and their communities. And he currently serves as co-founder, owner of Create Good Ventures, where he advises, creates, and invests in good social enterprises. So as always, we want to say thank you to the good folks at Gibson Guitars for sponsoring this show. And I want to welcome Tobias Tubbs to the Stay Human podcast.
Thank you.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, brother, every time I listen to such an introduction, brother, I'm humble, because when you said 1, 2, 3, I often, for audiences, count out the years. 1991, 1992, 1993, 1994, 1995, 1990, all the way to 2018, or 20 years old, 21, 20. And then it really gives the context of how many years had went by and on this journey, on this odyssey. Yeah. So to hear you say that, brother, I'm present. I'm bringing all of my full self into space, and I'm excited to be here.
Man, I'm just pumped to see you, and to see that we can have a conversation around the world. We were talking a little bit before the show, and again, just to give people context, you were telling me, here we are talking on, computers and cell phones and whatnot. But when you went in, what was technology like compared to when you got out in 2018?
Well, 1991, although I was in the circles in which, certain kind of cell phone, we call them the Beam Me Up Scotties. I think it was the Motorola where you pull the clip up, But normally, but pagers was really what was in my community. I'm talking about South Central Los Angeles, 1991. We were still on those pages. But I was a part of a group of men that was able to see the Motorola, the big brick, the big brick cell phones, brother, that you had to have like a 20-cent arm to carry.
You got to get biceps going to get that up to your
ear. Yeah, computers wasn't even really spoke on. There wasn't even anything that was a part of our reality inside the inner city. So to get out now, and which, you got pen phones, watch phones, glasses phones, computers is the phone, just a whole new world. And I am thankful and humble to be in it. And I think that's where the humility comes in, that, we've cultivated, a lot of us has cultivated great spiritual, psychological skills inside of those places due to the environment and what we chose to be and to become. And so to get out, often, I guess, people feel ahead of the game when it comes to our spirituality and sociality, being able to get inside of social spaces and really show that we can be human, and often even more than that. This is just a limited human experience. We're spiritual beings, brother. Having a human experience, people often believe that every human being's tapped into a spirituality, which I really had to give up that notion, because it's all if I had was my humanity, then that would have been a bleak situation, being
Yeah.
sentenced to death as a young person.
Okay.
You know, so when we tapped in to that, I am a spiritual being inside this human body, and this human body is connected to the very earth that seems to be incarcerating me, which is a prison, and that prison is connected to land, and that land is connected to a beautiful state called California that's a part of the United States and the world, and this earth is a part of a universe and a metaverse. And then I started to feel big, bro. I started to tap in that I'm more than just this physical body. I'm a part of a greater system, and I can bring the power of that system into space. And that is what I did, man. So, yeah, it's humbling that I can't even control my own little iPad and try to figure out how to get things to work, but I'm here.
Well, you got to work it today. We're blessed to have you. Hey, I want to just talk about, go way back with you. I want to learn about who you are from the roots. So, you know, tell me about your family. What kind of family did you grow up in? Where were you raised? What did your mom and dad do for a living? Brothers and sisters, all that.
Thank you for calling on the roots. That really just, I guess, epitomizes who you are as a person. You know, I researched you as I supposed to. I was very impressed, and I've been waiting for this day for the last 60 days to vibe and talk with you, although I've done it on other frequencies of thought and energy. But the roots, often we look at the fruit and we think the fruit, but we don't think the tree and then think the roots. Yeah. You know, you can't think that like you're talking about tomatoes, but that tomato came from somewhere. It came from a seed, and there had to be a earth that allowed that seed to grow. So as for my roots, I'll start with my father, because normally, you know, we start with our mothers. But my father was very intentional in bringing me to the earth. 1969, young man who went through the COINTELPRO era of Hoover, the FBI. And so a lot of my father's friends
for those who don't know, is the counterintelligence program that was used to basically try to subvert any sort of Black empowerment movements in the 60s and early 70s, the Black Panthers.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, brother.
Others. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of my father's friends was assassinated, killed, exiled, ran off. And so he was feeling, he was very depressed because he was a part of the Black liberation movement, fighting not for civil rights, but for human rights. My father said, son, we can't fight to be civil until we fight to be human, you know. And so he started writing a book, and he created like a superhero or a champion out of a guy named Tobias. And all the things that he couldn't in his generation that he felt failed in bringing to the light of the injustices of not only our people, but humanity in general. He said one soul is to harm one soul is to harm all souls. To oppress one is to oppress all. So he was writing this book about this champion named Tobias. And in 1970, the year of my birth, he intentionally brought me here with deliverance, raised me up to our ancestors and God, and named me Tobias, and stopped writing the book. And he actually forgot about this. I asked him recently. So after being gone for so long, I'm recording me and my father's conversations. And my godmother, my mother's sister, with me from day one, she said, you don't remember your daddy was writing a book? I'm like, no, how can I remember? I was just born. She said, ask your daddy about the book he was writing. So I asked him, he said, son, I guess you became the book. And so my mother and father was in Los Angeles. 1977, they got divorced. Now, my mother was a part of the liberation movement as well. So these are two people who was active and just being conscious, being aware, coming from Jim Crow, Ohio, by the ways of Mississippi and Alabama. So they grew up in, Black codes, Black laws, COINTELPRO, as I said. And so they were 50 babies. You know, their parents was in the 40s. Their parents, if you keep going back. So 1977, when they divorced, my mother went to South Carolina and with my three sisters. And I am the only son, and I am the second to the eldest. My sister Nicole is older than me by 7 years. They had her when they were very young, 15, 16. They had me at 23. Yeah, I'm the planned pregnancy. Then they had my two younger sisters, Sade and Tahira. So And so the point of me telling you this, me and my father moved to Leimert Park, which is like the Mecca of Los Angeles, what was called South Central. Now it's called South LA. But it was the place of Black intelligentsia, of Black art, and you hear the African drums beating in the morning, and you the smell of frankincense and myrrh, and the clothing, and we had a great sense of self and a great sense of we're able to be more than the bad circumstances that had happened to us. So this is at the age of 7 that my father and I went on this journey, and he just thoroughly threw me into to reading and storytelling. My father's father, my grandfather, he never talked to my father. He was socially there, physically there, but he was emotionally absent. So my father said if he should ever have a son, that he would talk to his son, he would love his son. Brother, so he's breaking that terror. But we understand that his father possibly didn't have the capacity. And I'm big on capacity building. He gave what he had. He gave a warm home. He gave limited advice. He was a man but he was going through some stuff. He was going through some stuff. And so we understand this is not about blame or judgment, but this is the soil in which Tobias, this seed, this fruit, this tree was brought into the world. So for 3 years, me and my father just read, because we had a very extensive library of books. And, we used to travel. I'm talking about the Greco-Roman mythology, philosophy, cultic sciences, every form of ethnocultural.
So you were like in university from age 7. You were already being steeped in knowledge.
I'm talking revolution, revolution, the culture, philosophy, conspiracy theories, every form of mythology you can name, from Greco-Roman to Great Dogon to the mystery schools of Thai Mary, the place they call Egypt, brother, to Krishna and Buddha. No, my father was teaching me all these icons, all these archetypes is me. That you are the Jesus, you are Muhammad, you are the Black Krishna, you are Buddha, son, you are Asar, the one they call Osiris, but you're also Aset, the one they call Isis. So there's nothing in this world that is outside of you, and everything that is in the world is in you. And so to impress this upon a young boy at 7 years old, of course I didn't understand it, but what I did understand is my father loved me. I understand that he was taking time with me. I understand that we had special periods throughout our day in which he would kiss me on my cheeks and my forehead and say, I love you, son, and you are beautiful. The Bible says, raise up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. See, the key about that is when they are old, they will not depart from it. You feel we be thinking we'll change our children in their young days and they're going to stay on the straight and narrow. So it's really the planting of the seeds in our young folks. So when they do hit like the hard times, in which I did in the form of incarceration, that I was not imprisoned. Why? Because I had what it takes in my roots. My roots was firm in love. My roots was firm in thinking. My roots were firm in emotional intelligence. My father was helping me deal and understand emotions and what kind of emotions it take to be a positive and a full human being. So that was to 1980. In 1980, to save me from the war on drugs and the war on inner city youth.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, about how the war on drugs entered into our communities, and then how that affected you. So at 7 years old, you were, that was like 1977, around there.
1977. Yeah.
So now you're getting into the 80s, and what were the changes that started to happen in Leimert Park?
Oh, the changes that started to happen, and I was always sheltered as a child. My father was very good at seeking to protect me from what he knew was coming. And he knew very high and powerful forces was, remember, I said my father's a conspiracy theorist, and every conspiracy he had since 1970 has come true. I can name them on another time, and you can talk about them. Every single one. He used to sit there, I guess, just obsessed about. But one was that crack cocaine will be flooded into the communities. Now, that's common knowledge how crack, there's so much documentaries and people telling on people like, oh man, how did these guns and assault? What were the conditions of broken families and removing certain programs and services out of communities that leave them vulnerable to what crack cocaine. But as for me personally, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I got the chance to experience the results when I went to prison. Because most men that I met were children of crack cocaine or was addicted to cocaine in their birth, or they was addicted to the criminality of selling crack cocaine or anything that comes along with that culture. Because I was sent away in 1980. You feel me? So in South Carolina, you'd be happy to get a joint, some marijuana to smoke, not alone some crack or heroin or something. So my adolescence, I was shielded from the harms of gangs and that destruction that just ripped through the Black community, especially in Los Angeles, which was like gang capital in the 80s and 90s. So when I got back in 1980 from graduating in South Carolina, and one thing I want to tell you about South Carolina, I gave my father a lot of credit, but my mother, Beverly Duran, and her husband, Titus Duran, her husband for 40 years, they gave me a childhood. They gave me fishing and hunting and basketball and church. Because my father at the time was a Black Muslim. Now he's more of a Sufi spiritual type. But 40 something years ago, my father was a Black Muslim, Nation of Islam, literally Black militancy, asymmetric warfare, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So that's one type of parent. And then I had 2 types of parent. My mother went back into Christianity because her parents was Christian, and she became a missionary and evangelist. Her husband is an educator, brother. I'm talking about first Blacks to graduate from Clemson, South Carolina, Calhoun County. Go research who President Calhoun is and why his statue and name still reigns supreme at Clemson. And so he was one of the first Black men to graduate there in 1971. I was 1 year old when my dad, not my father, but my dad graduated from Clemson, one of the most prestigious schools in probably the world or the South. So it gives you the balance of the parenting, the balancing of experience. So let's talk about
how, let's just jump up to when you were incarcerated and the circumstances around that.
Okay. Now it really gets back to your last question. By the time I got back to Los Angeles, gangs was it. And I'm not just talking about Crips and Bloods. I'm talking about sheriffs and LAPD. It was a gang culture. Police officers are driving 4 deep in a car. For those who are not familiar with what that means, there's no room for you. So you're not going to jail, buddy. So that means that they got different kind of plans for you. So it was legally, I've been assaulted, guns put in my face, called all kind of N-words and terrible words, for no other reason than to say, welcome to Los Angeles. Every time they ran my name, they say I just graduated from high school, just came to Los Angeles. So that was the atmosphere. It was just nothing but aggression and hostility between African-American males in the inner city and law enforcement. And so that created like just a lack of humanity, brother, a lack of connection between me and my peers. Oh, brother, I call it the war zone phenomenon. I call it war fatigue. And you look at all the murders that took place between African-American men on each other and law enforcement on African-American males then and since then, what do you think that does to a community of people? Even if you have one young man shooting another young Black man, so that's 2. That's 2 going out of the community. 2 young males are going out of the community. The one murdered and the one who did the murder.
Before any healing can take place, the next one happens. So it's just a continuous cycle.
So, cascading trauma that they call it. So for me, and what had me involved in my case, which we say wrongfully committed, because or convicted, because they tried me as an aider and abetter in the murder and robbery of my case, but the evidence clearly showed that I was not in the house. I was not in the house during the murder robbery. And so being that I could not take the stand because my two co-defendants had statements. And when I turned myself in South Carolina. Every time I tell this story, I say, I love your mama. Because my mama say, son, if you did it, I would help you run. We would help you run. And this is where I had to make a very adult decision, whether I was going to run or I was going to turn myself in and dedicate myself to what you call loving kindness practice and being mindful and present and really challenging my circumstances and knowing that I am better than my worst moment. So that's what I did. I turned myself in because I know I didn't commit the murders. I wasn't in the house doing any robberies. And I could not take the stand to fight for my own freedom because the law at that time stated if a co-defendant takes the stand to free himself and his other two co-defendants had statements there, go to the electric chair because it was a death penalty case. So I was placed in a situation to try to defend myself or to jeopardize my two co-defendants was my teammates. We was all basketball players, pro-am basketball players. And so I chose to be quiet and fight the case. And thus the laws at the time under the super predator narrative bring them to heel. It was a mandatory sentencing laws. And the mandatory sentencing law says that if you convict one, pretty much you have to convict all and you have to give us all life without the possibility of parole. The jurors did not understand that and they asked the judge, how are we giving Tobias life without a death sentence? And clearly he has some kind of redeemable qualities that we don't believe he should spend all his life in prison. And the judge said it's kind of like out of my hand due to mandatory sentencing. So that's what put me up on the journey. And that's when I went to the LA County Jail, which was called the Insane Asylum, because it's the largest in the United States mental health facility, a county jail. So now you have incarcerated men who are suffering from criminality or lives of criminality and that emotional and mental dis-ease. And then you have people who are actually, or what they say clinically, mentally ill. But if you're committing crimes, in my evaluation, and I was a part of it, you're mentally ill, you're emotionally ill. But we know why. There's circumstances and situations that bring about hurt people, hurt people, just as people who are healing help others heal. So if I'm harming you, Mike, it's only because I've been harmed myself. This is no excuses. The data now shows, the ACEs study shows, they've done so much studies on this. So when I went in understanding not that I had the advantage of any African-American, brown brother, Hispanic brother, white brother, or Asian brother, but I knew that I was made out of something special. But when I started doing interviews, because my father used to interview me for episodes on television, like I was going Donahue or whatever. Son, if you was on Donahue and I asked you this, because I'm 7 years old. And he used to ask you to prepare me to speak and be a voice for my people. So I used to do interviews.
Tell me what it felt like when you heard those words, though, that your sentence was going to be, life without the possibility of parole. What kind of a weight did that bring onto your heart, your head,
Brother, listen, Michael, they tried to give me a deal for 25 years to turn state evidence. Okay. Now listen, I'm 20 years old. 25 years is 5 years longer than I've been alive. So brother, put yourself back in the mind of a 20-year-old. You just made 20. I was trying to get out of 15, then I made 16, like, I'm 16, 17. You 20, you can't even imagine being 40, 45. It sounded ridiculous. What? Although I wasn't going to, give up my friends anyway. But the whole point of it was, brother, you have no sense of time. So when they say life without the possibility, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, brother. And, I went in sober. Most men don't go into their cases sober. You're actually coming off of some drugs, some alcohol, some, you already was born with drugs and alcohol in your system. So I had to go through the sober. And so when they convicted me with the life without the possibility of parole, the judge actually softened the blow when he said, "Oh, Mr. Tubbs, you're going to win on appeal anyway." So that gave me hope of 3 years I will win on appeal. So after the appeal, I didn't win. And then it really started setting in after the 7th year in prison. I was 27 years old, through riots and seeing so much death and hurt and just people being broken, taken, stripped from their humanity, being made a number. My name was no longer Tobias Tubbs. It was 876464. And then after years after that, you're no longer a number. Don't even say 64. You're a barcode. You have it on your car. You don't have to speak. So just the whole process of being dehumanized at the 7th year, I took it seriously. Before then, I was just playing basketball, just, loving on folks. But it wasn't a movement yet. It wasn't a mission yet. I'm just here hanging out, guys.
So what happened in that 7th year? What was it that turned over in that 7th year for you?
Oh, what turned over in that 7th year? I knew that people were serious. I knew that they would literally leave me in here to die if I don't fight. And the fight is not the kind of fight that most people might think. Brother, I'm going to generate every bit of love, spirit, truth, and power inside of my 6'1", 225, 30-pound body at the time. And I'm going to challenge the notion that I'm incorrigible. I'm going to challenge the notion that I'm a predator. I'm going to prove it every day. I'm going to create an energy in me and around me that is going to propel me out of this prison, brother. I'm known for that. If you've seen, I was on the Kelly Clarkson show, and one of the brothers brought me on the show, and he's telling like, oh, yeah, this is what he was doing, not just for me. Brother, anybody who I was around, Hispanic brothers, white brothers, anybody. I was going to tell them.
Let's talk about that. So you started sharing your optimism, your hope, your knowledge with others. How was that? What did it actually look like? Would you approach people? Would people just knew that?
Brother, circumstances and situations, people are hurt. Yeah. No, first of all, people are hurt, brother. Mm-hmm. People are depressed. They miss their mama. Most men, and the governor spoke on this, and even the DA at my time was DA Garcetti. His son is the mayor right now. Mayor Garcetti's father. I was on a panel at House and Worth, and he spoke at the panel. I didn't even know who he was. This was the DA that sentenced me to death. He was the head DA. They called him the mass incarceration DA. Then, apparently he has a change of mind and heart. But he asked me after the panel, he said, Tobias, say it again. How many men have you seen over the years, which were thousands, did not have a father? And it was up to like 98, 99% of the young men who came into prison didn't have a father to say, I love you, son. Mm-hmm. Didn't have a father that kissed them on the cheeks and the forehead. Didn't have a father to give them what they needed as young men to have a chance to live a balanced and sane and positive life. So, and I noticed very quickly that their angst, their vexation against their fathers was towards God. So once I started talking about God, they cussed God out with the same aggression that they felt against their fathers. If my father was there,
they felt betrayed.
Brother, betrayal. He let my mama go through that. The men was going through hurting my mama. I was a little person. I couldn't defend her. And then he started hurting me. If there was really a God, if my father was there, that wouldn't have happened. And so then I figured that as I was their age at the time, at the age I was the same age they was. These men, 18, 19, 20, same age as me. But I willed my inner father. I willed my dad in situations. I willed my father. I have a team of uncles. All the positive masculinity in my life, I wielded it. I started hugging men. Some men said, man, I never hugged me. I've never been hugged. That was the problem. You've never been hugged. And then I started to figure out the power of smiling. This is before the scientific evidence came out. That what smiling does to the continents, what it does to the heart, what it does to the neurology of the brain.
What it does to each other. Yeah.
Brother, sociality. And then it was a revolutionary gesture because the officers used to ask me, Tubbs, what the hell are you smiling at? And then I really thought about it. No, not the why am I smiling? Why is everybody else frowning? I have a choice in the matter. I don't have a choice of the circumstances that enter my life, but I have a choice on how I feel about those circumstances. So I'm going to be happy. Yeah. I'm going to draw all my inner joy up out of me. I'm going to call Krishna. I'm going to call Buddha. So if a brother was a Christian, brother, I'll teach him about the Christ. I'll teach him about Yeshua. I'll tell him about these stories and these mythologies and these parables, and they're talking about him. So now it's the Christ in him. It's not someone outside that's going to save you. Brother, you're going to save yourself. If a brother was a Buddhist, up in there, I'll talk to them about Buddha. If there was Hindu, I'll talk about Krishna. Brother, if there was on the African watch, I'll talk about Orunmila or Osiris, the one they call Osar, brother. Whatever page you was on, I'm going to hold space with you and love with you in that space, brother. And this was back in 1991, brother. This is not this new ethnocultural pedagogy of meet people where they're at, brother. This is 30 years ago. That something in me just told me that these men just need a man. How to connect.
They just needed to feel
brother, connection. You got it. Yeah. That interconnection, that coming not from a place of judgment, not coming from a place of authority, not coming from a place of blame. Brother, what happened is what happened.
Yeah.
But we have this moment. You're living in the past, thus it's messing off your present and it's tearing up your future. Brother, we have the right to choose who we're going to be in this moment, and I choose to love on you this moment. What you choose to do. And the brothers was responding.
As you got up towards the later years in prison, I mean, was there a point when you were just like, "This is it, I'm here forever," or was there a point when you started seeing that, man, maybe I could get out, maybe there's a possibility, and then tell me how Governor Brown commuted your sentence. What was the conditions that led up to that moment?
All right, to answer your question, I never. I turned myself in to get out. Remember, I turned myself in. I come from a revolutionary family, but I was naive to the point to think there was going to be some form of justice. But then again, as I start to develop spiritually, we don't determine the circumstances that we come on earth, bro.
Okay.
Come on, brother. We're spiritual beings in an earthly experience, brother. We don't choose when we come. We come when we need it, brother.
Yeah.
We come when we need it, Mike. Brother, so if my light, if my love, if my truth is needed in the darkest places, brother, who am I to complain? Who am I to cast blame, brother? I'm a star, so I'm a shine, bro. I figured out we come from stellar beings, brother. Our ancestors is the star. The same stars, the same thing that is made out of them is made out of us. Our earth comes from that. So, brother, that was my philosophy in life, man. I'm a star and I'm going to shine. I don't dictate what galaxy I'm in or what circumstances that I get. My whole thing is just to shine, bro.
Yeah.
To shine. So if it's to shine here and to help people ignite their light, bro, that's what I was going to do. And that's what I did. That led me to what they call the honor program, but they said there was no honor in us. So they changed the name to the Progressive Program Facility in Lancaster, California, which is California State Prison. It's the only prison in LA County. And so one of my counselors, and I call her my first warden, Warden Whitman of Calipatria State Prison. She was my captain at the time. She signed up. She seen me grow up. We all seen each other grow up. You know, the COs was 20. When they came in, I was 20. They become captains and wardens, and I still was a prisoner, or a so-called inmate. But they seen me grow. They seen me develop. They seen me through great odds, love and smile and leave before there was such phony terms of rehabilitation and all that. You know, I was really doing the work before, and they seen it. And I was fighting them, not with hate, not with animosity and angst. I was fighting them with love and truth and showing that without the help of the system, that we're going to choose to be our best people. And we're not going to succumb to our more animalistic or the reptilian cortex part of ourselves that has us just want to take our anger and lash out. So she signed off for me to go to Lancaster. And Lancaster was rumored to be in position, if anyone was going to be freed from the 33 or 36 prisons in California, that it would give you the best opportunity. Okay. So, brother, although I've done great work, 20 years in Death Valley which was Death Valley State Prison, Kilpatrick, California. Calipatria is called 133-degree weather. If you heard of the 23rd Psalms, that was my psalm. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil, for thou art with me. I used to say it every day, thousands of times, because it's literally called the Valley of Death. So I got to Lancaster, and I became a student, because all the programs and services and opportunities that I didn't have in the first 20 years of my adult life, that I'm having them now. So not coming in a point of entitlement or I'm Tobias and this is what I'll accomplish there. I just started getting into every class and, getting certifications of things in which I've already been doing, but without the clinical study, without the latest data and all this. So I started to teach classes, and so I was taking my skills that I had as a coach. I was director of athletics. I understood the passions and emotions of people. I ran a kitchen for 7 years, feeding 1,000 people on time, hot meals, which is almost seemingly impossible in prison. I galvanized every group, including the officers and the staff, to do that. So I came with skills. I came with talent. And so I got inside of that system, and I humbly say I mastered the system. Every class they have, I took it, I mastered, I become a facilitator of the classes. And then I started my own classes. And so it just showed that a person can have life without the possibility of parole. You can be deemed incorrigible, but when we're given the opportunity to tap into our higher self, our higher states of our humanity, which I believe is our spirituality, that connects us to a larger frequency of thought and love and truth, that we would do it. And so organizations.
At what point did you ever write to the governor, or how did it come that your sentence was commuted?
A group called, a man called Scott Bugnick. He's a good man. There's an organization called ARC, Anti-Recidivism Coalition. He took interest in the yard, and he would bring a lot of big Hollywood types, politicians, grassroots organizations to that yard. But we had many programs: Pause for Life, Words Uncaged, Healing Dialogue and Action, Golgi. If I didn't name your group, pardon me, I'm living your group. All these groups, brother, I'm a part of a lot of groups and people be in their feelings when I don't name them. But, you start naming one, you want to name all of them. But the whole point of it is, it was so much energy of people who came in our adolescence or young offenders doing amazing work, artists and dog trainers and facilitators and healers, brother. And, then the administration just moved back and allowed us to go to work. No violence upon the yard. So that brought Common, the artist named Common. He came and he was going to do a concert, to just answer your question. Mm-hmm. And he changed the concert into a town hall meeting because the wind kept blowing down his lights. So he said, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to do the concert. I believe God wants me to do a town hall meeting. And so Scott didn't notice until I told him. I always snuck out. One guy, he was on death row, my brother Chico, he was on death row with Tookie before they assassinated him on death row. He told the officer, get Tobias out. He's the spokesman for CDC. He's the spokesman for the people. We believed in him since he was a kid, and he's going to get out and he's going to be our advocate. They already had some good brothers that was going to speak for us to get second chances at life without the possibility of parole. And so I was snuck out. I was strategically placed in the audience, and they just happened to sit me in front of Nancy McFadden. May God bless her precious soul. She was the governor's chief of staff at the time. She passed after she submitted my commutation. To answer your question, she passed, brother, and people believe that was one of her last acts of kindness, telling the governor that she's seen it herself, that these are extraordinary men that deserve a second chance. And that's why I say the Honorable Governor Brown, he personally, at her request, and my warden, which is actually my warden who turned my paperwork in, Debbie Association, she cried. And she told me to put my commutation in her hands personally, and she was going to turn it in. But just to let the audience know, just because you get a commutation, you still have to go to the board. And so I went to the board, and I had the roughest commissioner, Commissioner Montez. I'm going to say her name. And I'm glad that I had the roughest commissioner. I'm glad that she's the one that let the fewest people out. And I'm glad that I went in there with her for 6 hours. Normally, those kind of proceedings only last 1 or 2 hours. Me and her last 6. And after, I went in there and spoke my truth and took the cases from my co-defendant, brother. I'm wrongfully convicted, but I said I am convicted of falling into a mentality of hurt and pain and disconnection. So no, this was not a premeditated case. No, we did not go into the house with the intention to whoop. But it was months ago, going through all the harm and all the pain. And she never heard no one come in there who has the possibility to go home to put it all on the line in that moment and take the case. I took the case. I took the case. No, I wasn't in the house. No, I didn't kill them people. But I knew I know the kind of disconnection that has to be in your heart to harm a person. I know the kind of the illness and pain and trauma that goes along in the human mind, brother, that will have me disregard my mother, disregard my father, my dad, to disregard the people who love me in my life, to be involved in that. So I said, that's a greater message that I can go out into the world and maybe help those who are suffering from that. That's what I tell people. Don't praise me because I was wrong. Oh, he's innocent. No, it's better if I'm guilty. Because I'm able to go to people who are committing crimes and maybe I can touch them in a way because there's an energy that comes from me that resonates with the energy in them. And this is why today I really believe that we have the wrong kind of approach when it comes to people harming people, bro. You need ambassadors like myself. You need men and women from around behind the wall. It's just not in prisons, brother. Right now, our military, brother, 20,000 sexual assaults a year that are being spoke of now. Just think about all the sexual soldiers upon soldiers. Our finest soldiers, our veterans are coming out hurt. Veterans are killing each other. Brother, every 24 hours, a veteran kills himself. We don't see nothing wrong with that. What kind of pain does it take for not alone for a person to hurt someone else, but to put a gun in their mouth and kill themselves? Beautiful family, beautiful children, whole communities. What has happened to you in the war theater? And it's no different, brother. No disrespect to our veterans, but the wars inside of our prison, the wars on the street, the wars abroad, it's still war, brother. It tears at our humanity. It tears at our soul. So I vow myself to do good, brother. I vow myself to get out of prison. I was never in prison. I was only incarcerated. I tell people there are more people I met out here imprisoned than I met people who are incarcerated. We're imprisoned by fear. We're imprisoned by lack. We're imprisoned by childhood trauma. We're imprisoned by insecurities of looks on how brother, we're imprisoned by so much stuff on these streets. So my simple message was, release me to do good in my community and in the world. And I wrote that. My name is Tobias, which is the saint of healing, the saint of restoration in Christian mythology, particularly the Catholic Church. And I understood who the governor was, and I understood who the Jesuits was, because Ignatius, the father of the Jesuits or the founder of the Jesuits, he used to pray to Mother Mary and Tobias. So I wrote the governor in that language, understand, I know who I am. I know the energy, that human beings were energetic, bro. And energy is informational. And information holds energy. So there's an energy in me. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Tell me about the work of Create Good Ventures, and you as a co-founder. What is the vision and the mission of what you guys are doing?
Brother, we're doing what was released to this world and released out on my second birthday. I was born October the 3rd. I was released October 4th. Come on now. I'm gonna give it to you again. I was born October the 3rd. And they released me from prison October the 4th. So I got my birthday and my rebirthday. Tobias means the embodiment of good, or God is good. And so my whole thing was, how can I bring what I've learned, what I've experienced, and what I've seen to the world and scale it? So I met my brother. I met many, but mainly when it comes to the business at hand is my brother, Anthony Samadani. Met him at a grave, long story. But we vowed to brother, we're going to bring good to the world. That's what his goal was. So it went from Good News, Good Ventures to right now is Good Currency Studios. And Good Currency Studios is based upon a journal that he made about taking advantage of our time. That our true currency, our true wealth is how we spend time. And so your days should be spent making sure that your spiritual self, your personal self, and your professional self, that you're investing properly in those three. And so he gamified it, placed it inside of a journal form, but that journal has become a movement to us. Because, I'm a man of formulas, whatever path you on, I can write you a formula from your holy book. So when I read this journal, and I was there at the LA Convention Center when he first did and introduced it to the world, then I said, brother, this is the formula of formulas. This formula keeps me active spiritually, because sometimes I get too spiritual. If my body's in danger, I just hide off into my spiritual world. And I would neglect my profession, whatever that is, whether it's education, whether it's advocacy, whatever the case might be. And I will neglect my person, brother. I'm not here, but I have a physical body. This physical body has needs. And so when I seen that the way that he brought this together, and that, my thoughts and my actions to energize my purpose, and my purpose on his to spread good. So now what we're doing is we're taking the notion of a studio. He's an attorney, entertainment attorney, and a producer. And so he knows the business. And so with this studio, brother, we're going to spread good, brother. We're going to invest in good. And I'm talking about good stories. Bad stories are killing us. Bad news is killing us. False news is killing us. Literally, brother, it has us so afraid and so divided. And so we're going to dedicate our time and our energy into investing in positive content, empowering people to be their best selves, creating those kind of spaces. We were talking about gardening menus earlier, own a gardening company. And, so we're going to invite people to grow, and not only grow community and health, but also learn how to prepare community and health, and then distribute, because we're living in a lot of food scarcity. And so, that kind of content is powerful. When people see people, I guess, just being people and loving on each other and establishing good. So, right now, brother, it's the month of July, the month of August. This is our goal, to get our studio up and start to investing in good and showing
the
people
stories, the good vibes, the good stories.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second. People being people. This is my last question for you. What does it mean to you to be human, and how do you stay human? You're somebody who is really a great example of this. You've been through some of the worst circumstances that any human being could have endured, and yet you've come out of it with your humanity shining so vividly and so brightly, and you're sharing with so many, thousands of people. What does it mean to you to stay human?
Oh, brother, listen. And in most, I guess, spiritual paths, you only got one shot at this thing. You come into this earth on the clock. We don't know whether we're gonna get one day. Some people only come for a day. They're a little child and they might pass. Some of us might get 60 or 70. But the whole point of it here, brother, we're here to experience our humanity. That's what we're here for. So what is going to put me in the best position every day to be my best self? My best self. My best self comes from when I am loving, when I am kind, when I am smiling, when I'm feeling good, brother. Even in the worst of moments, I can choose how I'm going to feel. Brother, that is how I can choose my emotions. Brother, that is, I believe, our greatest choice as human beings. Brother, we have the choice, regardless of circumstance, situation, COVID, wars, murders, drive-by shootings, road rage, food scarcities, presidents. Brother, in the midst of all of this, you can hold space. Smiling at each other, loving. Why? Because we're in these human bodies. You can see me, brother. And I'm going to give this human body up one day. And when I give this human body up and y'all lay me to rest, I know my soul will be happy that, brother, every day from the age of 20 to the age of my death, I spent loving myself, loving the earth in which I'm on, and seeking to love all those who come within my grasp, whether it's my hands or my voice or other people who met me and are taking this message on. So, brother, every day, this is how I appreciate my humanity and how I stay human, brother.
Awesome. Tobias, this has been awesome just to hear your story and just to hear where you've been and the work that you do and how you shine so brightly in all the lives that you touch. And I know people who are listening right now, there's probably a lot of people who would love to keep tabs on what you're doing. And are you on social media? Do you have an Instagram?
Brother, listen, I just got up out this joker right here, brother. So yes, we are forming our social media as we speak. And, you know, it's the month of July, the month of August. We're going to be good. All you have to do is look up Tobias Tubbs, and probably a month or so, something's going to go forward. But I'll be remiss in my duty. Tony would get on, brother. We starting our podcast, TNT, brother. Tobias and Tony and Tobias, according to whoever's talking. And we're going to invite you to come on. And at that time, you're going to know we're official. And then you can share that link with all your beautiful audience. And thank
awesome.
You, brother. I just want to say thank you, man.
Thank you for being here today. We've been talking with Tobias Tubbs, and he's the co-founder / owner of Create Good Ventures. And look him up. There's so much online about his story too. If you just Google his name, you'll see hundreds of news stories that have come up about his journey too. So very inspiring person. Thank you for joining us today on the Stay Human podcast. Peace.
Man, peace.